Hi, and welcome to Grace for the Journey. I'm your host, Sharonda. If you are new here, welcome, welcome. If you are joining us not for the first time, welcome back. So I'm going to jump right in here. We are in the middle of a series called The Hardest Thing That I've Ever Been Through Until It's Not, Until It Wasn't. So definitely you want to catch the previous episodes because I'm just going to dive right in here. So going to be focusing more in this episode about the journey itself. Sometimes we're such in a hurry to see the end result and we're such in a hurry to get to the destination. But sometimes it takes a while, and sometimes what you're enduring takes long, and the long suffering that's involved in it. So I would have just in the last episode I would have talked about the birth of my third child, and how traumatic the birth itself was. But if that wasn't hard enough, the years that were to come, and then what was to come after that, was the hardest thing I've ever been through until it wasn't. I spoke about how your challenges don't necessarily get easier. You just get stronger as you endure. So here we are, beginning our fight for faith. She was born pretty much blue, no lack of oxygen. She had to be resuscitated, given CPR for quite some time. A few more minutes, they would have called it as a stillborn. But God had breathed life back into her again. We thank God. So, but what came with that? What did this lack of oxygen for so long mean? And pretty much there was lots and lots of brain damage. I remember the doctor showed me the MRI and he said, this isn't a normal brain. This is what her brain looks like. There's damage here, here, all these different places. And I don't know exactly what life will look like for her, but this is what we see. And when I talk about the fight for faith, it was the way I questioned everything. There was so much emotions. There was anger, frustration, like the tears I cried. Like I literally, my body pretty much could have died from dehydration on its own. But eventually, through time, through family, community, prayers, so many different aspects that I usually speak about. Through that, we started to find our pace, I guess, find our pace on this journey. But it was so heavy, there was so much involved. You could imagine the weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly different visits. There was a pediatrician directly involved. There would have been a neurologist, physical therapist, occupational therapist, and every specialist you can think of that could possibly be involved with a complex special needs child was involved. And this needed time. This required time. This required a lot of energy. This required a lot of focus to the point where I felt like my other kids at some point sometimes were getting neglected. And I'll be honest with you, at the beginning, I didn't know how to ask for help. First of all, I thought, like I said before, I thought my business was my business. So for a few years, didn't reach out for much help. And so your girl was hitting burnout like hard, like hard. Burnout was my middle name, or first name rather. And I just was on this mission to fix everything and make everything better. And, through that process, I learned that, girl, this is the one, you got to give this one to God because, first of all, this child don't belong to you. This is God's child. And you don't know what you're doing anyway. So, piece by piece by piece by piece, I started to learn certain things on this journey. My faith grew. I learned how to pray. The fight in me grew more. The love and compassion for other people grew more. I remember I used to think that, why don't people send their kids to bed at a certain time? they need to send their kids to bed at a certain time, and so they can get, have time to themselves and don't lose their self and have time with their spouse. When they say don't judge, what if the child don't go to sleep? What if the child doesn't want to sleep, or there's so much pain, or doesn't even know, has no way to express to you what they're feeling, but they're just in agony? I mean, the amount of nights that we went through that, if you think about a new mom, what she would have experienced during the, I guess, the first maybe 2 months of postpartum, I experienced that for years and years and years until it got better, until I, started to learn to let things go, until I started to ask for help and reach out for help. But this journey was definitely, it was not easy. I don't regret any bit of it, but it has taught me so much, but it was not an easy one. And it was a journey that there's no end to it, because now this is your child. You have to take care of your child. And when I tell you every decision that had to be made, and this was not typically the best case scenario, but this is how I approached it at that time, with the understanding that I had any decision that had to be made, I had to make it around what was best for her. And, oh, we can't do this because of this. Oh, we can't do this because of that. Rather than, there's some people who, not to say they embrace the challenges, or maybe that is the best way to say it. This is where we're at, but we're going to make the best out of it. I hadn't gotten there yet. It took me some time to actually get to that point. But that journey of, like I said, being a special needs mom, I get it. I get you. I get the feeding challenges. I get the fighting with the doctor's challenges. I get the not sleeping at night challenges, the not knowing what tomorrow looks like, not having answers. There's people that want to ask questions that don't know how to ask questions, not knowing how to respond to the silent questions and the loud questions. There's so much emotion involved in that scenario. One thing I would say that was birthed out of that, my stage of burnout. You hear it a lot, but until you experience it, people would say, take care of yourself. If you can't take care of yourself, how can you take care of another person? And it's so true. Caretakers usually get the brunt, they get hit hard, especially when it's not just a paid job, when there's love involved, because you want to do your best and do best by this person and do best by whoever you're caring for. And sometimes you can literally neglect yourself. And I neglected myself in so many ways. And then just trying to run my household on top of everything that was happening. It's not easy. It's definitely not easy. So I would just take this moment to say to anybody that might be, caretaking, go ask for help. Get help. If there's some form of respite available, please utilize it. Don't take years like me, because I didn't need help and I didn't think nobody could take care of my kid like me. Don't be like me. If it is something that's available wherever you live, please use it. Please use it. It sounds so cliche to say you can't give from an empty cup and all this, but it's true. You literally are just pouring from adrenaline. And sometimes it's the caretakers that, God forbid, lose their mind and die first, because they are pouring so much into others and they're not having time to recharge. They're not having time to recuperate and come back and be like, okay, let's go again. So this is some of the things that I learned on this journey. I would say, out of that, sometimes you go through something and, there's a passion that rose up in me. And I'm like, I'm not the only one going through this. There's other people going through this. They may not have necessarily a special need child or a child that needs special care, but, they may be involved in something that is taking all of their energy and all of their time, and they're not finding time to rest and recover. And from that stage is where my nonprofit Women's Intermission Foundation actually was birthed, because I realized there's some women that are going through it or were going through it, and they're not having people share their experiences with them, so they feel alone, they feel trapped, and they feel that I just have to give, and I have to be the best at my business and the best at mom and all of this, and they're not taking the time to recuperate. So had I not had those challenges, I would not have been able to reach other women and help them. So in your journey, while you're fighting for your life, while you're fighting for your faith, while you're fighting for your child, whatever you're fighting for, please, please look at the good that can come out of your situation. There's a message my pastor preached years ago that I held on to, and he's like, find the seed in your pain. Because one day that pain is going to get better. One day that pain is going to heal if you allow it. But what comes out of it? Are we just going to be the same people? Are we going to help others through it? Like, there's a reason. I can't tell you right now the full reason. I'm not going to lie and act like I know what God was doing, to be honest. And, the experiences that he allowed to come my way. I can't tell you right now the full thing. I know little parts of it, but not the full thing. But what I would say is find the seed in your story. Find the seed. What can you do with where you are right now? Because if we keep waiting and just until we get out of it, until it gets better, until things just magically change, so much time is wasted. So much time is gone. So yeah, that was one of the two things that really I learned is I got to beat burnout. I got to find a way to keep recharging. No matter how hard it gets, I have to find a way, especially those situations that are the long suffering, the long ones, those Job and Joseph type situations. Those ones, you got to find purpose in it or you can't survive. You have to find something in it. So here we are, baby girl. We're doing everything. I've trying all these different modalities, so many different trials just to see, will this help? Will she get better? Did she respond to this? How's she doing here? There's speech therapy or pathology, with speech pathologists involved, because at this point now, feeding isn't feeding. We end up with a feeding tube directly in the stomach. She's not gaining weight. There's just so heavy, so much going on. But yet God held us and God kept her actually healthy in terms of, her respiratory and not catching a lot of colds and all of that stuff. So he kept her healthy. She was healthy until the last year of, so this had been 2022 going into 2020, like the end of 2022, last, December, starting in December 2022, something around there. So many things happened. Our baby girl unfortunately had pneumonia. She had to have her G tube replaced. She aspirated. There was so much different medical challenges. And for all this time, we'd been going to the doctor for specialist visits and checkups and this kind of thing, but not necessarily medical, like this child is sick issues. And so I remember one of the doctors saying, I don't know you. I'm like, I don't know you either. And they're like, how did you guys stay at the hospital so long? Like, I don't know, she's been healthy. But, the challenge of dealing with the hospital. First of all, I hated the hospital. From birth, I didn't trust nobody. I didn't trust any of the medical. I don't care how smart they were. I'm just being honest here. I didn't trust them. And so now here we are back here, and you have to have better have some discernment, and you better learn to trust and walk away and not stay in that hospital for 20 days straight or whatever the length of time. The walls can close in around you, and that's a whole nother story. So we're going through this. There's other kids involved. I remember my husband also, I think he had to travel a little bit back and forth for work at this time. And here I am with every time she went in that during the last year of her life, it was something crazy and something traumatic and something I wasn't used to. And to the point where they're like, she's been here for quite a bit, and they wanted to introduce us to this team and that team and her care. It was just so hard because now, yes, she's had these challenges and she's had therapists and specialists, but now I'm dealing with big guys again, the medical team. And this was the hardest thing that I'd experienced until it wasn't. So she went through a few surgeries during that time. She went through a rut. I remember one day she was home and she just wasn't, she was stopping breathing, gasping for breath. Had to be rushed to the hospital via ambulance. There were just so many different things and so many scenarios. But it wasn't the hardest thing until I experienced her actually dying. And there's just I don't care what nice word you use, transition, going to be the Lord, whatever you say, like pretty much when she actually left us, it felt like, everything I've been fighting for, like, this is not how this story is supposed to end. This is not how this story is supposed to end. And it wasn't a situation where, there's some critical illnesses where this is the life expectation. So you started to, whether you wanted to believe the medical team or not, you started to have in your mind, this is what's going to happen. This was not a situation like this. It was sudden to us. It was so sudden to us and to me. And it was the hardest thing. It was literally the hardest thing to have to go through in that time. And I remember, talk about your body just reacting and just being in shock, being in denial, being angry, being every emotion you could think of that's not smiley or happy, just experiencing that. And now this is when I really have to be vulnerable because there's absolutely no way I'm getting through this on my own. There's absolutely no way. And I want to tell you, this is when our village literally came through. Literally came through for us. There's the things people did and the way they showed up and the love, there would have been absolutely no way to get through the situation without vulnerability and being able to get help, receive help. Grief is not easy. It's definitely not an easy thing. It's probably the hardest thing that I would have experienced so far. And if you don't have people, while things are going good, make sure you have a circle of people. If it's not your immediate family, make sure you have people you can call on, people that you can call family, because as my pastor likes to say, the day of evil will come. He would always say the day of evil will surely come. There's gonna be something that's gonna come to rock your boat and rock it hard. And there's a time you need backup. There's some things, if you don't have people to go through it with you and to stand with you, depression is definitely gonna come. Anxiety is definitely gonna come. When you see people experiencing these things and you see certain people maybe commit suicide and you're like, why didn't you reach out for help, or don't judge, because I've been in a place where you feel like this, I can't deal with it and I'm just better off not being here because this is just too much to deal with. So don't judge, rather reach out your hand reach out your hand to help, reach out your hand or see whatever you can offer them. Find help. I spoke in one of the previous episodes about vulnerability. Are you a good friend? Are you a friend that people can call on for help? Or Are you able to call on for help in your time of need? So these are just all things to think about. And we'll get more into a little bit more of this story in some other episodes as needed. But grief in itself, that is a journey on its own. But it's definitely a journey. It's definitely a journey, but it's possible to heal, and it's possible to get through every single thing I've spoken about. It's possible to be on the other side of it. Perspective changes a lot. Your community changes a lot. Your availability to be vulnerable changes a lot. There's so many things and aspects that can make your hard story, because I know it's hard, but it can make it less challenging in that moment and to give you things to look forward to. So we'll talk a little bit about many of these things at different stages as we need to, but that's a little bit about, and that's just the motherhood journey. That ain't the other stuff. That's the birth stories. That's not the teenage raising Gen Alpha's journey yet. This is just bringing them into the world. So the saga continues. But, I've shared a little bit more about me and how I got to this point, from not wanting to say anything to now sharing everything. And because, one thing I would say, all of those experiences plus more has allowed like a passion to rise up in me to see people happy. Like even during the hardest stages, there were moments of pure joy. And it wasn't fake. It wasn't every day, it wasn't every second. But we're able to still have joy and to be happy and to embrace everything that was actually going well around us while things were not going right. So stay tuned. Thank you for listening. Thank you for allowing me to share my story with you. Thank you for allowing at least some of the story. You have lots more to hear. Thank you for, just being a part of this safe space. And I trust that something that has been shared so far has blessed you. Please share with others. If you know someone that's going through, please feel free to share with them. Let them know that they're not alone. Let them know that they definitely have the power to overcome. Let them know that they have backing. Let them know that there's other people that are still, that are there and are going through similar situations, and that they can make it out to the other side. So, bye for now. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you guys next time.